thanks you guys for joining us. We got Joel Gray, DJ Tonik.
What's up, guys?
Thanks for coming down here, dude. Came all the way down from
pleasure.
Melbourne, dude. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
That's definitely at least an hour ride, so thank you for coming down.
Totally.
I'm your host, P. Smalls. This is Mixed Days. We got Infinity here, Scott in the background, who's going to be cheering us on. We got Joel's wife, Laura. She's here as one of our cheerleaders, and Gina is here as well. So if you guys feel free to chat with us too. Like, it's kind of like a live conversation thing. So it's all good. We're not real formal about this shit. Like, we just kind of go with it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So we're good. So Joel is here, man. We got a pretty cool show that we're gonna get into. So we just got a couple announcements. I gotta hit the fucking record button. I always do that. Okay. So. Oh no, actually I already did hit it. So yeah, I already did hit it. So I hit it earlier. So so it's all good. It's live. This is how it is. This is how it goes every time. No, there's no language problem on here.
No FCC.
So we're good on that. Yeah. All right. So Joel is the owner of Tonik's Lab, and as I've said on here many times, you fixed my turntables.
Yes, I did.
Which I am so grateful for that. You don't even know. So I appreciate that. So they're actually here behind the camera. You can't see them, but we're definitely going to play on them a little bit later. So I kind of want you to talk about that real quick, is just kind of give us a good plug on what your business is, and then we'll kind of circle back around to it.
What we decided to do was to look outside the box of the normal Techniques world, where we see a lot of stock stuff out there. And a lot of people bring stuff out of their closets and storage units that are, craving that feeling of a turntable again, and they realize that they're not as good as they used to be because of the storage quality, so many different aspects that affect these things over the years. What we've basically come forward with is a on-the-spot service that we come to you, we do full diagnostic, we look at everything that could be done to make them better or brand new for you, and give them back to you so that you can enjoy them for another 20 years. We've gone as far as doing some things that have been phenomenal work as far as design, hydrographics, Cerakote Elite, amazing different things that would preserve the turntables for years and years and years, so you never have to worry about those chips, scratches, and things that occur from just normal use. Even the sweat from your hands stains the paint. So as a matter of fact, Pete, yours, Patrick, yours were very, iffy on that level where you saw where you were putting your hand and had that brown stain in there, and when you got them back, you saw that was like
fucking
completely
clean,
gone.
dude. Yeah,
it was
clean. Like you don't realize
new.
how dirty your turntables are until they're clean.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, these don't look like the same tables that I gave you.
I found all sorts of recreational things, including just wild and crazy insects. You never know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always a surprise to me when I open a turntable. It's like a Pandora's box of things.
So where can, I'm just going to do share real quick here, where can they find information about your business?
Okay, two places. One is Facebook/Tonik's Lab, and that is where a lot of people see a lot of our activity. We do a lot of videos, we do a lot of sharing, projects that we're working on, including different shows we were involved in. We also have a website at www.tonikslab.com, and that gives you more in-depth on pricing, packaging. We supply you turntables in our packages, or if you have your own, we give you a discount towards those packages. And we are very competitive on our prices, and the things that we do are well worth the money. You can pretty much ask anybody who we've ever done work for. It's just outrageous the amount of stuff we do for you.
It's definitely worth the money. What's like a starting price? What's your diagnostic fee?
That's $50.
Okay,
$50. And that's very, very fair for any electronics person.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Most of the time, and we've done our research on it, it's around $75 for a diagnostic for most people, and then $75 per hour shop time after that.
Okay.
So you could rack up a really big bill just in having somebody look at something, which I find is outrageous.
And then the other thing that I didn't know until today is that you guys will travel.
That's correct.
So tell us about that.
Our clients tend to be all over. We're located here in Florida, and a lot of our clients are in Florida as well. And we have driven all the way to the other side of Florida, even Fort Myers, Naples area, to meet with different clients and help them out with their issues. And if it's something that I can't fix on the spot, we make appointments to bring them back in a certain period of time, or whatever's necessary in order to fit their schedule.
So you'll go pick them up?
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. We will come to you.
And return them?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. When you told me that, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
It's amazing to find somebody that you can trust to do that, especially these days with any kind of equipment or any money, period.
Right.
You know, you never know when somebody's going to just fly by night and just shut down and be, oh, you're out. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
good luck with that. You know, and we've really established a good baseline in the community with the respect of others, and just paid it forward so that way that was available for people to say that we found somebody trustworthy that we can, you know, put our faith in.
For sure, man. So we'll definitely circle back around to the business. But yeah, if you guys know anybody or you need your turntables repaired, go check him out, Tonik's Lab on Facebook.
Or something crazy. Because if you have some concepts of your own that you're like, hey, I really want to do this and I don't know anybody that can do it.
Yeah, because they do custom work. Yeah,
that's right.
They do some awesome custom work. So, all right, so let's get into just how you got into electronic music.
Okay.
Let's talk about how that started.
All right, so this one goes way, way back.
Well, hold on. First of all, you're a DJ.
Yes, that is correct.
And you produce.
Yep.
And you repair turntables.
That is correct.
And you're a collector of breakbeat history.
And other electronic music.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have my own museum, literally. It's my little studio laboratory museum. Which you got a chance to visit.
I know. I was very impressed by some of the stuff that you had in there, and you have an amazing record collection, which we're going to get into that
Absolutely.
too. So you do all those things. So then, how did you get into the music?
Surprisingly, California was a big influence on me. I was out in California before I came to Florida, and LA was very progressive.
What year was this?
This was back in '94.
Okay.
And in '94, it was very progressive out there, and I started picking up on a couple different things. And actually where my DJ name came from was a coffee shop / DJ style lounge called Tonik's Cafe. And Tonik's Cafe was one of those types of places that you could just freelance. You could come in and be like, hey, I'd like to DJ on this day of the week. And they're like, cool, you can DJ? Great, bring your stuff.
Okay.
You know, and they had tables, needles, so the only thing you had to bring was records. And at that time, there was a lot of record shops down in Melrose area where you can go shop for some records. And one of the first few records that I pulled out, because I didn't really know much about the music, I saw pictures, and when you see a picture of something on an album, immediately it draws your attention in. Mm-hmm. And that's part of cover art and what makes good record sales for the people who are making tangible objects. So one of the things I saw that was really intriguing to me was Hooge Tunes. And I have a very huge love for Hooge Tunes. And
that made me grab one of these records.
I've divulged that to quite a few people. It is quite literally what got me interested in all of this.
Boom! If you haven't seen this,
yes,
which I'm sure you had to if you're in the records.
Classic after classic.
And they're
after
European,
classic.
right?
Yes.
Tunes is European?
Absolutely.
So they always have this guy on them, right? And then they have the label like this.
And on each individual record, on the actual label, there'll be a stick figure depicting something to do with the song itself.
And the record will fall out of the bottom of the sleeve at no extra cost.
only with the wear and tear. If the shelf wear is there, it will happen. Bag your records. That's important. So I saw that and I grabbed it off the shelf and I listened to it, and I recall that the sounds that I heard were something phenomenal compared to anything that was mainstream that was being listened to at the time. You know, I was a very big punk rock kid growing up, so everything was 80s oriented, and I listened to Vandals and Dead Kennedys and just pretty much just any punk band that you could possibly imagine. I was into it. And of course, Green Day at that point had just started coming out and doing their thing.
Green
so that was,
Day.
Yep, and that was also a big portion of it as well. So so hearing this electronic side of things was really mind expanding. It blew my mind, and that really compelled me to move on. So I grabbed all the Hooch tunes that they had. I bought them all. I went down to Tonik Cafe and presented myself and said, hey, I've got some records I'd like to play. And not knowing anything about DJing, I was pretty much just ending records just to hear the records being played on a loud sound system. And apparently I was better than most of the guys that were coming in. And I was just using common sense to do what I was doing. And so they asked me to come back, and I said, okay, well, it's fine. I'll do it. So after a while, I kind of became a regular there, and this was down in Santa Monica. And so I kind of named myself DJ Tonik after being in Tonik Cafe. Now, my name is spelled Tonik, which is actually an acronym. I don't know if you knew about that or not.
I did not know that.
I decided upon, how I was going to name myself and why. Because you want to make sense of what you're being called. So TONIK actually stands for Teaching Others New Inspirational Knowledge.
Listen to you with that fancy ass name.
Yeah, and it was something that went through my head many, many times because I'm the type of person that I love to teach people stuff that may not know. And it's that information is what makes us human. It's our ability to communicate and to divulge information that will help you and better you and yourself.
You're lucky that you got to pick your DJ name.
Yeah, well,
I didn't get to pick my shit.
It didn't come from the friends going, hey, your DJ.
Yeah, dude, my shit, P Smalls, like that's just what people have called me, and I can't shake it. Like, I tried. I've tried to change it. I can't shake it. I can't fucking shake it. So.
I gotta say, I was fortunate on choosing my own DJ name, although it was from DJing at a place that was a Tonik cafe, and they were a Bristow kind of place, so a very, very small beginning.
So what kind of music was that at first?
Progressive house.
Okay.
Very much progressive. Okay. And when I came to Florida in 98, 99, after being out in California for a series of years, that scene here was still in the progressive, but it was moved into that breakbeat era where it was very breaky. Florida breaks were huge, so I kind of started moving towards that by using progressive breaks because I already had a large collection of beach tunes, and progressive breaks were mostly on the flip side or B side of the record.
Okay.
So I was able to kind of move in on that with that, but then I started hearing some of the West Coast stuff, Tony Fanlene stuff, just a lot of different genre oriented with breaks, and then of course the mainstream blew up with it, and the rest is history. Then we just go travel around and DJ wherever we can and make money and keep doing the same thing we love.
So were you producing music back then as well, or that was just DJing? Okay.
I did produce some white labels. I still have one to this day, which there was only 20 run that I did of one particular song.
Was it under DJ Tonik?
It's under DJ Tonik. You can find it on Discogs,
Oh, shit.
And it's called Turn Me On, and it was a progressive house track. And
what year was that?
1998 was when I produced.
True. Okay, that's cool.
And what I did at that time was produce white labels out of the Bahamas. Were very cheap. Decent quality if you paid, obviously to make sure that they were. Otherwise, you got doll heads in there, and they were very weird looking.
So since we're talking about records real quick, so playing some of these records, I've noticed. I guess I had noticed anyways, but it reminds me, some of them are thicker.
Yes.
What's up with that?
You pay for that. Actually, the gram weight of a record can do a lot for you because sometimes you'll notice that your thinner, low-quality records will kind of have a warp to them.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm asking you that, because I have one record that's a good song, but it's very thin, and the other thing it does is when you go to pull it back to cue it, it'll fucking hop out.
It'll hop out. Yes, it does. That's that nice teeter-totter effect. My advice to anybody who has one of those is invest in a weight that you can put on it to try to keep it down. I've even had copies of OBE that were done, Hallucination Records, that would cone up like on the one side, so that when you flipped it over, it was like concave.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and you can only play the one side unless you had a weight to put on it to push it down.
So it's basically like you're like, all right, they give you like a different price point.
Yes.
And so if you're the cheap ass, you get the thin crust pizza record.
That's right.
And then if you're like got money, you get the deep dish. Mm-hmm. Okay, I got
absolutely.
Because like that Tears of Technology record, like that was a good
quality.
I could feel it. I could feel it. But not all of them are
very
like
good.
that. Okay.
And you'll also notice the sound quality tends to be a little bit better out of those too, because they can get deeper grooves in.
Okay.
And the deeper your grooves, the better longevity your records will have.
Okay. So let's talk about your record collection.
Oh God.
So I gotta tell you guys. So I had never met Joel before. Actually, I didn't even get into that. So how I met Joel was I saw a Facebook post that you had done about repairing turntables.
That's right.
And I had messaged you, and you were telling me about it. And you're like, yeah, it's like it's going to be at least $350 a table to fix them, right? And I was like, at this point, I wasn't doing any of this stuff, so I was like, I don't really need to do that right now. But then you also told me that a good pair of Techniques in good condition are like $1,500.
They are.
So you planted the seed, right? And then after I found out that you knew Scott, came back around and I had the stream going, I was like, fuck it, let me get them fixed. And so Scott took them up there for me, and then I went and picked them up, and then discovered all this stuff about you.
Yeah.
With the fucking record collection that's literally like the size of the wall over here. and that tall as well. And you had all this shit in there, and I was like, holy shit, like this is some awesome stuff. So
Speaking of which,
all right, here we go. So we got a show and tell going on too. That's like the best part about this show is we got some really cool stuff that I don't even know what it is, but he's about to show us.
All right, so the first thing I have on here, and I know many of you have seen this before. This is a Jekyll and Hyde record. It's Taste and Touch. Now, you may be able to see it, may not be able to see it, but you can actually see it's been signed by a couple people there. That's Todd Walker and Scott Weiser. And this is the original test press of Taste and Touch. And so it's not exactly something common. You can see Todd's signature in gold, and then, of course, Scott's is down there. Flip side of the record, Taste and Touch, as you can see here. This is one of those few and far between test presses that you probably won't see very often.
How many of those do they do in like a batch?
Usually it's a 25 run.
Okay.
A run of 25 test presses is your general run for pressing. And then after that, they start doing labeled pressings if it's going to fly. And really,
Can I see it?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. And you can show it off a little bit more. And with that, I actually had the original artwork that was produced by Andrew Carlson. And Andrew Carlson also goes by the artist Drone, which he's a fantastic artist. He has the most vivid imagination of anybody I've ever seen in the art world. He was the one who did all the Hallucination Before Christmas stuff, all the stuff for the Jekyll and Hyde albums. He does so many different things.
What's his name?
His name is Andrew Carlson. And
Is he still alive?
Yeah, of course. Actually, he lives out towards us, well, actually a little bit further on the west side. But he still does production art for. He was actually even going to be working with Topps to do cards, like artwork for Marvel characters, things like that. And he will commission things if you contact him and say, hey, I'd like something done, and give him some ideas. He will do it for
So
you.
this test press, did it come with the sleeve? Or with the artwork?
No,
or you put these together?
I put that together.
Okay.
Test press, if you buy a test press, most people of us know them as white labels. They only came in the white sleeve,
Okay.
which would be the insert. Now,
Right.
obviously, I had picked up a jacket just to protect it, and what better than the original jacket from the
Okay.
record. But this kind of stuff is so rare and finite in our world, in our history, that it's important for somebody to try to keep it in good shape and preserve it for all of us to enjoy in the future, and that's what I do.
So how do they? So this is, you said this is the original artwork.
Absolutely.
So is this? You were telling me something before about it being a negative. I don't know if this is a negative, but
No, that's actually
So
the
how do
hand-drawn.
they? Oh, okay. This is hand drawn.
That's correct.
Holy shit! Oh wow, I can see now. Okay, yeah, it definitely does look hand drawn.
And anything Drone has ever done, if you
Oh, I see
actually
the drone back here.
Yep, exactly. Anything he
Okay.
does, and some of your older albums, some of you out there that have some of these albums, look at the actual picture. You can see that he hides his name in every single piece of art that he does. So you'll see Drone in there. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo type thing.
Right.
It's really neat. He's a very smart guy, super intellectual.
And then I see the Jekyll and Hyde.
Yep,
tattoo
Jekyll and
right
Hyde
there.
tattoo on the arm. Exactly.
So okay, what were you talking about the negatives then?
Okay, so the process of that is once they have the concept art, then it goes into the negative process where they create negatives that end up turning into the pictures that you see on the albums. And they'll do a first run where the actual album is split like a gatefold. It's one entire sheet where then it gets folded into the carton shape of the record sleeve or jacket.
Oh, okay.
So that's how those come to be. But all of that stems from the original artwork that's provided to the artist.
But
to
this
do that.
isn't. I mean, and I might be wrong. This isn't printed on here. Is that what you're saying?
This is printed on the
Okay,
jacket, yeah.
okay.
So that's it, all from the negatives that are rendered from the original artwork.
Okay.
So if any of you out there do have original artwork from your records, this stuff is irreplaceable. It's
How
a
did you
priceless
get that?
masterpiece. I actually got it from Andrew Carlson himself.
You
So-
just asked him for it, or
Yep.
you're like, hey, let me get those Jekyll and Hyde original drawings.
Well, he knew that I did a lot of stuff history-wise as far as preserving it, and he had a very large collection of works that he had done prior in the past that were just kind of sitting around. And I said, well, what do you plan to do with them? And he said, well, I don't really know. I said, well, if you'll give them to me, I will gladly display them and show them off to people for appreciation and give them the admiration they deserve.
That's awesome.
And this is just one of very many pieces that
You
I
have some big ones. Like
Yes,
you
some
had
very
a
large
large
ones.
one. That's the one I saw that was hanging up.
I
It's
showed
huge.
Patrick the two original from Beyond, yeah.
Yeah.
The Beyond album that were originally in color that went to black and white later on, and they were all hand drawn, and you can actually see where Andrew had taken the pencils and scratched down at the bottom to verify the color was going to be where it was supposed to go, as an artist would with a
Wow.
palette, which is really cool to see that history all.
So
right there.
is he a solo guy, or does he work for a company?
He's a solo guy. He
Okay.
actually will, like I said, if you were to contact him through, I believe he has an Etsy as well as his Facebook. Drone is his DRONE, for those of you that don't know. And contact him through there and say, hey, I have some concept ideas for some artwork I'd like to have done. And he usually responds to you pretty quick. And he'll give you size, portrait size, what he wants, and generally give you a time frame as well. And Christina, she does a lot of the phone work or front of the house work, so she will respond to you as well. She'll probably reach out to you and say, hey, I heard you were looking for something.
That's cool. I'm gonna look him up.
And again, this is stuff that you've seen on flyers for many years. Attack of the Booty Snatchers, which was a very big thing in Cyberzone. He did all the artwork for that. A lot of hallucination records that you've seen in the past have his artwork on it. And like I said, again, the Night Before Christmas was still going on today, and he's done artwork all through the years for them. Just phenomenal stuff.
Wow.
With Nightmare Before Christmas, like renditions of Jack Skellington DJing on turntables and using a mixer. Just amazing things that come out of this man's mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely a cool guy and a great guy to work with.
That's cool. So your record collection, like, have you bought other people's collections, or is that just you over however many years?
It's both.
Okay.
It's a combination of me and my collection, and then other collections that have kind of weeded their way into.
How many records do you have?
If I had to guess, because I know I haven't done a full count, close to about 12,000.
Wow, that's insane.
So yeah, it's pretty massive. It takes up living room, studio, you name it. It's just wall to wall.
And so the records that are in there, they're all genres? Or?
Yeah, there's a lot of genres in there. Most of my personal picks are always going to be something that's going to be off the wall, left field. A lot of progressive house, obviously, from my roots. Breaks, same thing. A lot of progressive breaks. I also do a lot of left field type breaks.
Do you have a majority of what's in there? Is it majority breaks, majority house?
It's about a 50-50 split.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times with progressive house records, obviously we always have the progressive breaks on the other side. So you kind of have a diverse collection when you have any sort of record label like Hooch Tunes.
Right. So are you playing those records, or are you just letting them chill?
Oh, I play a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
So, and actually I brought some with me today. We're gonna do some music later.
Yeah. After the podcast, we're gonna do a live stream for a little bit, so we'll play some records and all kinds of stuff.
And I definitely brought some things that a lot of people are not gonna know. They may have never seen before. Some of them are white labels with no markings. So if you know what it is, awesome. If you don't, I don't know.
So you also have the acetates.
Yes, actually, there's one I brought with me.
Explain what that is, because I didn't even really know about any of that until when I met you.
So an acetate versus test press. Now this is one that gets tossed around a lot. Of people like, this is a test press. What's an acetate? An acetate comes right off the dub plate, and this is what.
All right. So what's the dub plate?
Okay.
Let's go back. Let's start at the beginning.
All right.
Start at the beginning.
Dub plates are your negatives. Those are the molds for your records.
Okay.
So those are the things that actually press the records. And they go on each end, and they essentially create a smashed mold for the record.
Okay.
And then they take off the outer edge while it's warm, so that it creates that nice round edge. Some of the lower quality ones you find will have really jagged edges where they didn't take that.
I've seen that.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, lower quality pressings, you'll see that. The one
now, can you play an acetate?
Yes, you can, but you do not want to. And
So
we're not going to.
So what's the dub plate thing?
Okay, so this is your first run. And we'll get a close-up on what this actually is, and I think a lot of people will appreciate it, and I won't say anything just yet. But the acetate essentially is the artist's first copy off the dub plate. So this is made out of a completely different composite. It's not a wax. It's what used to be called shellac.
Okay.
Like the Thomas Edison records, if you will. Like that old school.
When those European guys, like, they say they're playing dub plates.
Yeah.
You ever heard them say that?
Yeah.
So what are they not really playing a dub plate, or they just call those?
If they're playing actual acetates, they're only going to get about maybe 25 to 50 plays at tops.
Okay.
And then they're done, because this material is much harder. It doesn't flex.
Does it sound better?
It sounds phenomenal, but
Okay.
it only lasts so long.
Okay.
So yeah, you only want to play these very few times. It's for the artist to basically proof what is coming off the dub plates to say this is good.
Okay.
And if it is good, then proceed with the test pressings, get your test pressings, and then that's when you go out and you start, handing a few out. You keep some for yourself, and then you go into label art and label pressings where they come mass distributed.
Okay.
So very few acetates exist. Most of the artists have them hanging on their walls. The one I brought with me today is from a man that's actually standing in this room. And on the previous web series you did with him, you mentioned one of the songs that he disclosed about the group being non-existent.
Yeah.
And Patrick, if you would, if you can hold that up to the camera so that everybody can actually see it. If you'll flip the other side.
All right, so it's Jay and Jane.
And you can take it out of there. And the thing about an acetate that you'll know the difference is the smell. And I'm a big smeller. I love smelling old stuff. And
oh shit!
It smells totally different from any piece of vinyl. It almost has like a cleaning smell, like something you'd use to clean your kitchen.
To me, it smells like new shoes.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, there's a lot of weird interpretations from the smell.
Yeah. It smells like new shoes to me. Not dirty old shoes. It smells like new shoes.
But yeah, there's definitely a smell to the acetate that's going to change.
That's cool.
And then you can see that they're much heavier.
Yeah.
It's a very thick. It's a shellac.
It does have some weight to it. So yeah, Scott was saying that. Who did Jay and Jane? I already forget. What was the name of the people they said it was? Larissa.
Yeah.
That she's not real, or that group wasn't real.
Correct. Yeah.
That it was on a bunch of other things. That
when you write something like that and you're like, well, there's nobody to play live. What do we do?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, well, sounds good.
This isn't signed, Scott. This is not signed. So I don't know. Maybe we're doing that. I don't know.
No. That's a piece of history that he has entrusted me to keep for him in my collection, which stays put. This is the first time it's actually left the house, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's definitely not something I travel with.
What is there's the A and B side. Are they both the same thing?
No. One is actually Infinity's intro side, so that actually is something that he had done for himself.
Okay. So we're not putting this bitch on the turntable.
We are not putting this on the turntable.
Okay, all right.
But for those of you,
I just want to be clear.
And I don't know if the lighting's allowing.
Yeah, you tilt it, like kind of tilt it.
There we go. And hopefully they'll be able to zoom in. But yeah, those of you that are a fan of Jay and Jane, this is the
it's not really, yeah.
The holy grail of the copies that you could possibly have. This is definitely the one.
So what are the other acetates that you have?
There's quite a few.
Or just some of them.
Yeah, some of the request ones actually. Quite a few of them were provided from Scott. Actually, Scott really hooked me up with a nice little piece of history to preserve for him in that room. Which, of course, at any point in time, if he came over and said, "Hey, I love those back," and they'll go right back through his hands.
Yeah, so you were saying that every time he comes up there, you get him to sign some shit. Yeah.
Well, because we give away a lot of stuff, and because I've had multiple copies of things throughout the years, I've given away a lot of things, and people have known this from the different shows that I've been at. That we've given things away and just raffled things off. Even like our fresh mixtapes, we raffled off and sent them out to people, and just do a lot of fun things to keep everybody enjoying music.
Right. And it's cool because like I feel like it's come to the point where like preserving that stuff is important.
Very much so.
Because I mean it's not really like being produced anymore, obviously, but also like. The people that are involved in it, like we're not getting a whole new blood, like kind of thing. So it's like we're getting long in the tooth.
That's right.
With the break scene,
and that's a big thing with the producers that were doing it back then are still doing it now, and they've kind of conformed to a newer format of things that it's up and down. It depends on your taste level. I prefer the kind of early 2000s, late 90s grade production.
Right.
I do find that much more appealing to me. Some of the earlier stuff you can see where they were just kind of catching that niche and getting into it, and you're like, okay, you could see where they're going, and then their perfection starts coming out. But then now with our microwave society and a crockpot world mentality, we have 3-minute songs that you get a minute and a half play and then they're out.
Right.
So you're not really getting a full production quality like you would on a tangible object, which would take days, months, and sometimes even years to produce. Even myself producing my own album took me forever before I even had the courage enough to say, I want this on a tangible object that's going to be there forever.
Right.
That's a lot of stress to put on yourself to say, I'm going to do something so good that I'm going to put it out there on a tangible object.
And other people are going to play this bitch, hopefully.
That's right. And it's going to stand the test of time. Where, you know, our digital era, we have terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of music that I can't even tell you half of what I have anymore because I've got so much. It just gets buried. Where records, I can go to the shelf and I can pull through and I can look at a picture and go,
oh, exactly that.
I know exactly what that song is. And I love it, you know, and I'm putting it down on the platter right that minute to listen to it. So that appreciation for the quality of work that's done and just the artwork alone, that speaks volumes for the
when we had talked about the artwork thing, you had made me think about that. I was like, damn, that is a really big part of it.
And Scott, being in the other room, will attest to this. He spent a lot of time designing the artwork for his stuff in different ways that would be abstract, that would kind of get to your mind and let you have your own interpretation of what you're seeing.
Did I tell you that his little logo looks like the alien from Independence Day?
Yes, and I also heard the Blues Clues thing. And
actually, the Blues Clues. I forgot
about that. When you guys were talking about it, I pulled out one of the records, Breathe Deep, and I'm looking at it going,
right here.
I didn't see the Blues Clues thing till he said it, but the alien, I'm like, damn, that looks just like that alien that got the nuke sent into the spaceship right before he blew up. All right, so I mean, that whole collection thing, dude, that's like amazing to me because I never really considered doing that. And then after seeing what you're doing, I was like, man, I had like an opportunity to do some stuff like that, and I just was like, why?
Yeah,
it's not gonna fucking matter. But now that it's 15 years, 19 years later, it's kind of like, damn.
Yeah,
I probably should have maybe started that.
Absolutely, and it's really a compliment to the artist and all the people who actually put the labor into making these things, because we have things like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We have things that that are memorabilia from other artists that are musicians. All of us come from some sort of musical background, and we learn production as it goes, and we get better at it as we hone our craft, including DJing. We're essentially sound engineers. That we know how to manipulate sounds in order to make them palatable for the audience.
And you said, dude, the labor that went into that whole process. It's not just the song.
That's right.
It was getting it pressed, the artwork, the release, all that stuff. Like that's
and
like
the
a
money.
long,
And there's a lot of money involved in that. There's not just a you send it out and some magic fairy just goes whoop, and there you go, you're pressing.
And it's like, I mean, nobody's rich from it.
No.
Like, dude, I've thrown a lot of parties. I've had one that made me money. That was it. And I've thrown a lot, and only one I was like, damn, okay, this is good. All the other ones, like I broke even or I lost money on. But that's not really what it was about, No, it was about the scene, like the music, like having a good time, like being a part of that.
Absolutely. And that's really what everybody should take away from everything in life, really, is that the memories that you get are worth more than any money you could ever make. Honestly, that's what your lineage is the memories that you can share with other people that will live on through others.
Right.
So that again is
words of wisdom from DJ Tonik.
Thank you
for that.
In honesty, that's really what it's all about. It's the more that we can do that progress to be better for others is the only way that our generation will ever succeed.
And you never know, man. There might be a breakbeat museum one day.
That's what I would hope for, and I would love to contribute.
I mean, seriously, that definitely could happen.
As a matter of fact, I'd love to open one.
It's a whole period of time,
you
know, that like a lot of stuff was happening. It was its own thing that developed out of just the coincidence of circumstances, I guess. And
absolutely,
it was an organic kind of movement thing, and then like
collaboration of minds that just so happened to be at the right place at the right time.
It's its own entity, and so like it deserves to be preserved.
Agreed.
For sure.
So many generations in our past has done the same thing with many of their things that even still to this day you can see that people are collecting stamps and McDonald's toys and everything in the world that just meant something to them as a child in their adolescence. And this is stuff that we had in our generation that we took a very small notion to preserve a lot of. Club flyers, I collect still to this day. I still have club flyers everywhere. I got all my artist badges and
they're cool looking at old ass flyers, dude. You're like, who made that shit? Like some of them are like, wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that shows. That shows there was appreciation level for even the artists that were on the bill because they put more money and more effort into making the flyer bigger, cooler, in some way that would appeal to people to bring them in to enjoy something along with them.
I remember when those 3D programs first came out, 3D modeling and shit, how they were like the liquid water and the fucking space scene and the shit hanging in the air.
Everything was polygon too,
Yeah.
so everything had jagged edges.
Yeah, that's some funny shit, man.
Yeah,
So,
that transformer.
if there's anybody who's got a huge pile of money just sitting around, we want to start a breakbeat museum. Maybe we'll start a GoFund campaign for it.
Just an electronic museum in itself. I mean, there's so many instruments and analog equipment that are at my house that come from different people.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that stuff. Tell us about some of the stuff you have with that.
Yeah, everything from like Juno 106s to even Scott's Nordbach sitting there that I've preserved and am fixing, repairing, doing things to them to keep them to where they still work. Those are things that I find that are a piece of historical value that really need to stay on this planet. So I will do my part in order.
Some jammers were made in those things.
That's
man,
right.
For
That's
sure.
right. Without those pieces of equipment, a lot of us would never be able to do what we've done.
Yeah. Yeah, when I had the audio bots on here, they kind of explained the whole process of making music through the 808 and shit like that and the 303. And I didn't know that's how it was done. You know, how sometimes your fucking RAM or whatever the storage on there is will just fucking erase itself.
Yep.
For no reason. So you go to fucking play and the fucking shit's not there.
You got like maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds of memory on there, and you're like, all right, we're out of memory. What do we do?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to clip 2 beats to make it work in the measure. All right, well, just space them out.
Yeah, it was very interesting to hear how they were like doing that, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
A lot of work to make one song.
And some of the old school analog technology would have multiple memory banks. Like the Juno 106 actually has multiple memory banks as well as multiple voice chips, so that each one would store certain portions of your sound. So that way when it all came together, it would harmonize. So in a sense, when you would hit the key, every time you hit that key, it was going through a different voice chip and a different memory bank, collecting all that stuff together to make the one unique sound that you created.
Right, okay.
And that was a beautiful thing. And that was all going through analog circuitry, resistors, transistors, to make those weird and funky sounds that we all enjoyed.
Yeah.
And now we've basically done away with all that, and we created what we have as controllers now that have software VST plugins that are essentially mimicking those sounds that they don't sound the same, not at all. There's no comparison to an original.
So you collected records, you were a DJ, so when did you get into repairing turntables?
All right, this is actually really a cool story. I've been an electronics guy for a very long time. When I was a 5-year-old kid, I was actually breaking open Ataris and even into the Nintendo when that came out, opening them up to try to figure out how they work, and so much to the point where I was fixing them for like the neighborhood kids. And
how do you fix that fucking thing where you got to blow into the fucking cartridge? Tell me about that shit. I've never even thought of how
opening up a Nintendo, and there's a lot of guys out there that would agree that they've repinned their Nintendo.
There's all kinds of tricks. Fucking put a Q-tip in there, fucking blow it out, put some fucking sand in there or something.
Every time you take that game out and it gets dirt inside the cartridge and you plug it back in, you're plugging it into that female pin in there, and it's collecting oxidization and dirt in there. So sometimes just blowing on the game is just you're adding moisture to it from your breath in order to make contact to those other pins. And very similar to what we've experienced with turntables. Sometimes when you take your stylus out, put it back in, you're only getting a left channel or a right channel. A lot of times that's, something on there that's causing, corrosion or resistance, where you would need to clean it off with a Q-tip and then put it back in, and it works fine.
Okay. So blowing in the cartridge is not the fix.
Yeah, that's
you got to take that bitch apart and fucking.
You really got to get in there. And actually, I went as far as I remember having a neighborhood kid bring one by that was completely green in there, and I remember taking one of my mother's nail files and getting in there and just filing down the pins, and then cleaning it out with alcohol and then putting it in, and it worked fine. So, electronic repair was something that I've been doing for so many years. I always did the repairs on turntables for friends and family that would ask me, hey, can you take a look at my turntable, and I'll do it. It wasn't until recently we opened up the Tonik Lab LLC and expanded it to the mass public and said, hey, we're willing to help everybody out. And we've really done our research, market research, and with the knowledge that I have to do the modifications that you've been seeing, the paint work that you've been seeing, all of that's coming from my creativity and stuff that I've contributed to the company. And it's continuing to grow. In fact, we've actually expanded into shipping and creating the original Technics box. The Technics came in, but made it out of brand new materials that are up to date, that'll preserve the turntable even in storage lockers when you stack them on top of each other.
Nice. So when did you actually open the business?
It was actually just past this October. So our LLC.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep, in 2018. And then our LLC started in January of this year. So we are a fully LLC company that we travel abroad. And
So you were just fixing, like you said, for just people.
Yep,
And then
friends
you're
are
like, I'm getting enough business
Yeah,
to where
absolutely.
we're going to do this full time.
And the stuff that we've been doing has been so far, and I even go as far as say left field, that people are seeing that there's new concepts you can do with old turntables, and they see the new stuff that's come out and the quality level that's being produced versus what used to be, and going, I kind of like that classic car better.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons, and it truly shows. I mean, you've seen, the
So
work
let's talk
firsthand.
about the Technics 1200. What makes that so special?
Oh, the audiophile special. The Technics MK1 originally was designed for home use and for audiophile use for high-end stereo systems. And they originally had potentiometers on the 45 and 33 in a knob form, which was very hard to use as far as the DJ was concerned. It wasn't until the disco era basically hijacked the 1200 for usage to be able to play records back to back at a reasonable rate so that people could continuously dance without interruption. So that's really where it kind of became more of a DJ product, and that's where Panasonic at that time started expanding on the model, creating things like the MK2 with an adjustable slide potentiometer to allow for that easy transition.
So did they had DJs, like club DJs, in mind when they were making this?
Yeah, I would say that was a first-hand experience thing. Yeah, that's...
So how come that was? That's probably not the only model of turntable that was out at the time, right?
No, there was plenty.
So
of others.
what made this one like the DJ turntable? Like, how did that happen?
I think because of the simplicity of it and the elegance of it. It was more the manual car of turntables, because a lot of home-based systems back then were all automatic. It was you press a button, the tone arm would come out, it'd plant itself on the record, play to the end, it'd pick itself back up and bring it right back. And back in the old days, a lot of people would have like a stack of records on what would be the top, the spindle pin was what we call these. But it would have like a little click, and it would hold the records, and then it would drop the next record on top of your other record that was currently on there, and then play that one. So it would just destroy records. It was a terrible concept. But back then, nobody thought anything would ever change, and nobody would think that their Beatles albums would be worth hundreds of dollars, instead of the couple dollars they probably paid for them in the 1970s.
So this design, is it basically the same since the MK2 came out?
This design, the ones you have are actually an earlier generation. Yeah, this is what it's been for years. The things that they did change throughout the different generations of 1200s is the pitch control's center click was smaller on the second generation. The first one, it was really wide, and that was the one that was originally designed for the audiophile guys, and then also the DJ market was still in play. Now, once they started realizing DJs were using these things to mix with, that little center click area became smaller. So that right when you came off the center click, it was already engaging in a pitch control.
Okay.
So before, you had this big wonky gap that sometimes when you would come off of that, it would really jog your record speed, and you'd be shocked going, whoa. Most DJs found that area as a scary area and would detour from that zero as much as they could and mix in the mid-range of the plus side or the bottom side of the lows. Including myself. I found myself doing that in many clubs because the calibrations were always...
I've never seen one of those that has that. I've only seen the ones that have the center click right there.
Well, the center click, it does have the center click, but the actual pitch control, which was modeled the actual model number -2, has a smaller area where the center click is initiated. So as soon as you come off the click, it would engage in that pitch. Where the older ones, you would have still a variance. There was a much larger pad.
Like play in the area where it would come off of it.
Correct.
Gotcha,
so you could still be out of the click zone, but still be in the zero zone.
And now, was that the MK2 that had that?
Yes.
The first? Okay.
The first gen, yeah.
Okay.
And the original 1979 model had a totally different pitch control concept. All of the bus in that was all metal, and it was very, very tolerant to wear and tear. So even today, I still have some of the 1979 ones that you can refurbish, put back together, and they still work like brand new.
So what's going on with the parts situation of these things?
Oh man,
because that was the one thing that you had told me when we first talked. You're like, parts are fucking expensive now.
They are insane.
Yeah.
eBay has ruled and reigned the market on parts, and this is an unfortunate thing for people like me, because I really like to try to keep things modest for people, and I want to help everybody. I really do. But in order to exist as a business, we do have to make some money. But if we look at the parts on what they're just at wholesale value, let's say a pitch control, for instance. We just recently noticed that they're starting to come back on the market from new distributors, and they're about $50 to $75 a piece. So you figure the time invested in taking a turntable apart, installing the new pitch, or modifying it without a zero click, things of that nature, is going to take some time, and then also the drive time to pick them up, bring them back. So all that has to be calculated in the cost of what we do. So our prices really do reflect a very modest amount of what our Flex is able to do. But just like tone arms, a brand new tone arm is $400 easy.
Wow.
And those things are almost a crown jewel of a turntable these days. If you got a messed up tone arm, wow.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So who's making the parts? It's not Panasonic, right?
No,
okay.
no. The Panasonic parts were discontinued when they discontinued the line of the turntable. Fortunately, there was a lot of backstock in many companies, small businesses that were electronics businesses, including even the Technics warehouse itself liquidated a lot of stuff over the years. And over in Japan, a lot of these guys are taking these turntables and harvesting them and taking all the parts out of them and just throwing the plinths away and the rubber parts away and just basically junking them and using that as a means of making money online, which saddens me in a way because that's just telling me that every time I see one of these parts online that people are doing this to, that's one less turntable on the planet for somebody else to use.
Took one for the team.
It's making
Sucks,
making it more and more limited and rare and rare. And as that's happening, it's driving those prices up and up and up, which is great for people who have them that reinvest in them, like yourself, because your $250 turntable turns into a $750 turntable.
So are they making new parts?
No, well, there's a company that I saw that is, I can't say counterfeiting, they're reproducing a replacement pitch control, which is a valid thing because you can actually take, any company that does PCB printing or does any potentiometer work and commission them to design something for you, which I'm currently in the works of doing, and making it equivalent or if not better than the original with the same means that they produced it back then.
So every part you're buying is from a turntable?
It would have to be either from another turntable or it would have to be from backstock. Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So it does get very pricey. A lot of investment has been made. So what I try to do is utilize what parts are already on your turntable and refurbish them back to a new condition, which can be done. I've actually engineered bearings for the tone arms, which have been phenomenal, and you've seen them firsthand. Even other DJs who've used my turntables have made note of it and saying, "Wow, this is on par."
Yeah.
Like I haven't seen a turntable perform like this in a long time. And one of the key essentials to having good tracking records is having a good smooth transition with your bearing as it's moving across that record grain. Now, with the Technics turntables original bearings, they were at a 5-point interval. So on the inside, you had 5 bearings in a star shape. So there were certain sweet spots where the little set screw would find its way between 2 bearings and sit there perfectly. And a lot of the DMC guys would find that sweet spot and always utilize it. You'd always see them in that one spot and go, "Yep, that's it," and drop the needle. And that way it wouldn't vary. But as soon as it would move into one of those bearing spots, it would kind of jut it to the next slot.
Okay.
So there was no fluidity in those bearings. And unless they were brand spanking new, and then they would work for a good period of time until they got dust or particulate in them, and then they would just become useless and worthless.
So there's a finite amount of parts out there.
Very finite, yes.
Wow.
So for a guy like me, it's a constant hustle to make sure that I've got stock, make sure I'm constantly ordering. So every bit of money that comes into us goes right back out the door.
Right.
We're always buying to make sure that we have enough to keep up with the demand that we have regularly.
I did not know that. I thought somebody was still making parts. I know they had stopped making the turntable.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they ever did. That was a mistake on their part. But then again, if you made a car that never breaks or never really has to be maintained for 20 years,
too good.
You never have to buy another car. It would destroy the economy.
Yeah, it's too good.
There would be no cars out there. It would just be like, screw it.
So how far did the series get?
All the way up to the MK5 on the analog side. Then they started going into a digital side, which would be at the M5G Grandmaster.
Okay.
The M5G Grandmaster has a digital pitch control that communicates with the motherboard to send a digital signal, and that's why the pitch variants, if a lot of people have played on the two simultaneously, have noticed that the jog of moving the pitch on an MG5 has much more effect than on an MK5. Where an MK5, when the guys like myself and the old school DJs, we ride the pitch, you can do that where you're off just a little bit and bring it in.
Yeah.
You do that on M5G, it jogs it so quick that it shoots you off beat.
Oh,
So
okay.
the guys who
All
ride
right.
the pitch have a lot more harder time with it. Now, obviously you could touch the flatter, you could touch the record, you could do whatever you want in order to make sure that, it's on par. But it's just a different feel. It takes a while to get used to. So I don't really classify it in the same class as the MK2 up to the MK5.
Right.
It's actually its own entity. And with the ability to change the pitch from 8% to 16%, that's using a digital technology
Right.
to do that. It's not an analog thing.
Have you used any of the Pioneer turntables?
I have. The Pioneer 1000s are almost a clone copy of the Techniques without the quality level that I would expect from a Techniques. They did a lot of changing that kind of made them their own, I guess you could say. But there was a lot of reverb issues that I found with them. Even with the tricks and techniques that I know to kill reverb, they still had a lot of reverb. And I'm like, yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't know what they did, but yeah, maybe go back to the drawing board on this one because these are supposed to be for clubs, remember?
Yeah, I've never used them. I've only seen them on the internet. I don't even know anybody that has any.
Yeah, so I guess if you're just a DVS guy and you like the way they look, I say go for them. I mean, it's not going to hurt you, but there's something about a Techniques that just it's like owning a classic Ferrari.
Right.
It's something to be enjoyed, and it still performs just like they do.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely turned me back into a believer about them. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was just gonna let them sit in there and fucking collect dust. I thought about getting rid of them at one point.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I didn't though. For real.
Well, now we're getting a chance to have some fun in the studio here. We got two nice turntables that are up to par, and we get to play some music.
So let's see. I mean, I think we kind of covered a lot of the stuff that we were going to talk about. You got anything else for show and tell?
I didn't bring too much, only because there's a lot of value in just what I brought today, and even chance of bringing that stuff out of the house is a risk in itself. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Get in a fucking car accident or something.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only one of those on the planet, and I can't get another one.
Right, for sure.
So not gonna to bring too many of those things up.
Yeah, no, I got you. I understand. That's cool. So, all right, well, I guess we can wrap it up. It's been it's been over an hour. So, yeah, it goes by fast, right?
Well, let's jam out. Let's play some music. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, so we're going to stop for a minute. I got to change out some gear, and then we will be back, and we're going to play some music for a little while. What time is it? 7? So, yeah, we got plenty of time. So, all right, you guys, thanks for tuning in. We will be back shortly. Give us like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.